Hello, and welcome to the Capitol Report on Entity Television. I'm Steve Lance. An unprecedented meeting today on Capitol Hill. This as tech tycoons like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg huddle with senators to brainstorm AI legislation. Entity's Iris Tao has more on this closed-door meeting.
So today's meeting lasted a whole day behind closed doors, and senators, including leading senators like Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, came out to talk to us right after it ended, saying that they talked about a variety of issues, including how to increase transparency in the AI industry and how to mitigate risk associated with some AI techniques such as deep fake and what's known as watermarking, and how such techniques could be used to influence things like elections. And Schumer also told us that today the main theme is really how to, through taking bipartisan actions on regulating AI, how to ensure that American public can enjoy the benefits associated with AI, but also to mitigate the risks associated with this fast evolving technology. And of course, today's meeting was so significant because it really drew together all the biggest names in this industry, including Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, as well as Bill Gates. And today, Elon Musk in particular told the public that today's meeting was historic. He also warned about the dangers of AI. Watch.
I think the consequences of AI going wrong are severe. So we have to be proactive rather than reactive. There is some chance that above zero that AI will kill us all. I think it's low, but there's some chance.
So several senators told us that they really appreciate this rare opportunity to directly listen to these leaders of the AI industry to learn more about this. But also there are some critics of today's meeting, including Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren, who told me that she did not understand why today's meeting was held behind closed doors. But still, senators including Chuck Schumer told me that they think today's meeting was very productive and that it could help the U.S. in its competition with China. Watch.
And the fact that we can bring everybody together and come with legislation that would move things forward on both sides will help us significantly.
There's not a world in which China can put that room together. Like, the government in China is trying very hard on AI, but the leadership in AI is in the United States of America right now.
And Schumer says that he's going to have more open hearings on this topic of AI in the near future, and we're certainly going to see more actions by Congress on AI very soon. Back to you.
Joining us now to share his thoughts on the Senate's AI hearing is Michael Rosen, intellectual property litigator and senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Michael Rosen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Michael, this issue of artificial intelligence, it's starting to become more prominent. You have senators on Capitol Hill being briefed by some of the most powerful tech CEOs about this issue. What are some of the biggest challenges, in your opinion, that people need to be aware of?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Steve. I was on the Hill yesterday for one of the hearings of the Privacy Subcommittee of the Judiciary Committee, chaired by Senator Blumenthal. And two of the witnesses yesterday, I thought, had some very interesting things to say. Actually, all three of them did, but two in particular. One was Brad Smith, who's the president and co-chairman or vice chairman of Microsoft. The other was the chief scientist of NVIDIA, which is one of the companies that makes the graphics processing units that are so important in all sorts of AI developments. And the key issue that came up yesterday, and I think will continue to come up, is how exactly we want to regulate and license and create a regime where we, the people of the United States and of the world, can establish some amount of control over this really exciting but potentially problematic technology.
Some of the risks that always stand out to me are potentially leveling the playing field, whether that be in, war, developing countries. I know there have been issues with countries like Iran getting some of our drone technology. If some of this AI gets into the hands of bad actors, it just seems to pose such a dangerous possibility.
Absolutely, Steve. And look, this is the case with all sorts of technology. Anything that's promising and powerful and that confers great benefits also confers great risks. So just like with any sort of military or national security types of technology that we develop in the United States, we need to, of course, take care that those secrets underlying that technology don't find their way into the wrong hands. That's certainly a possibility with AI. Many of the experts that I've spoken to in the field are confident, at least at this point, that the developers of AI, such as OpenAI and Google and Microsoft and others in the US, have a significant edge over their competitors in other countries, such that even if, let's say, China or North Korea or Iran wanted to, it would be years, if not decades, before they could catch up to what we're doing. Now, that's not a reason to be complacent. We always need to be on the lookout for any potential malfeasance, and we need to make sure we exercise export controls over technology in appropriate ways. But I think we shouldn't think of AI as such a different category of technology, that the way that we've treated other risks in the past shouldn't also be applied to it, albeit in ways that are appropriate to it.
Excuse me. Lastly, are there any regulations in place right now to, regulate AI in terms of addressing issues related to data privacy, algorithm transparency, bias mitigation, and so forth? And if not, how do you envision that?
So at the beginning of the hearing yesterday, Chairman Blumenthal of the subcommittee said, "Make no mistake, there will be regulation." He was unequivocal, and the ranking member, Josh Hawley, who's a Republican from Missouri, agreed wholeheartedly with Senator Blumenthal. In general, I get nervous when there's too much agreement on Capitol Hill. That doesn't seem to be a problem that much these days, but when everyone is singing from the same hymnal, I think we should be a little bit concerned about it. But all that said, regulation done in a smart way, in an appropriate way, with the cooperation of the industry's best minds and best products, I think can be very important. As of now, there are plenty of aspects of AI that are already regulated by groups such as the Federal Trade Commission, the National Institute of Science and Technology. Standards have put out all sorts of position papers and guidance on that. So one question that's come up is whether we need a new independent agency within the federal government to regulate AI. It may be the case that we do. I tend to be skeptical offhand of creating new agencies to regulate new technologies. I think we need to explore first whether our existing framework is supple and flexible enough to be able to handle it, but we shouldn't close doors to any possibilities at this point.
Michael Rosen, really appreciate your perspective. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me, Steve.
The White House is asking the media to be critical of the impeachment inquiry against President Biden. It sent a letter urging them to, quote, ramp up scrutiny. The letter from White House spokesperson Ian Sams says that there is no evidence against Biden and that the impeachment inquiry is without merit. The letter was sent out to major news outlets like the New York Times, Fox, CNN, and the Associated Press. This comes after House Speaker Kevin McCarthy announced the impeachment inquiry yesterday. It aims to investigate President Biden's involvement with his son's business dealings, calling into question the issue of influence peddling. We've all heard the talk of reducing the size of government, but Vivek Ramaswamy appears to be taking it to a whole different level. His plan would cut federal employees by nearly 75% and abolish several agencies. NTD's Jason Perry brings us the details.
People who we elect to run the government ought to be the ones who actually run the government.
Speaking at the America First Policy Institute on Wednesday, Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy said the balance of power in America has changed over the years.
Three-letter government agencies that wield the most political power in the federal government, despite having the least political accountability, through unelected bureaucrats who have no backstop of actually being accountable to the public.
And he laid forth his plan to restore the constitutional republic, taking aim at the size of the federal workforce as well as certain government agencies.
First, it will be a plan that reduces the size of the federal employee headcount by over 75% if I'm the next president by the end of my first term, 50% of which is implementable by the end of year one.
Some would argue that the president doesn't have that power, but Ramaswamy said that's only a myth. And he read from the 1977 Reorganization Act, which says the president does indeed have that authority.
To reduce the number of agencies by consolidating those having similar functions under a single head, and to abolish, that's not my word, that is a word in the statute, to abolish such agencies or functions thereof.
Ramaswamy said he'd start with the FBI, and he cited information about the Bureau from the Pulitzer Prize-winning book, G-Man.
The same one that used illegally collected tapes to threaten Martin Luther King Jr. into committing suicide, they tried to do, is now being used to target political opponents of a different persuasion.
And he explained what shutting down the Bureau, which has about 35,000 employees, would look like.
They're going to go home when we shut it down and find honest work in the private sector. But 15,000 of those employees are going to be reorganized into the U.S. Marshals, into the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network at the U.S. Treasury, into other parts, the DEA, that are taking on the drug enforcement problems that we have in this country.
He also said he'd shut down the Department of Education.
This is an agency that spends approximately an $80 billion budget per year, telling local schools that they can't get those federal funds unless they adopt toxic racial and gender ideologies.
Some of the other departments Ramaswamy said he'd shut down are the ATF and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. To watch Ramaswamy's full speech, you can visit ntd.com. Jason Perry, NTD News.
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.